Hello, today I'm joined by Pablo Moreno. Pablo is one of the co-founders of Coin Governance System. It's a very interesting project to try to reduce the amount of scams in the ICO space. So I'm very happy to have Pablo with us today. Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you, Eike. Thank you for the opportunity to explain the coin governance system.
Great. And that's exactly what I wanted to start with. I wanted to give you the opportunity to explain in 1 to 2 minutes what are the basis of coin governance system.
Okay, basically, ICOs have shown their potential now for startup and innovative projects to raise large amounts of capital. No? We've had $5.6 billion raised in 2017, and in the first 3 months of 2018, we've had around $3 billion capital raised for ICO and different blockchain projects, no? Through ICOs.
Right.
But obviously, there's been scams, there's been project failures, and what we wanted to build is an opportunity. It's a project, a product to help create much better ICO ecosystem. No, so the coin governance system is basically a system of smart contracts, a system of escrows that holds the money raised in ICOs and delivers it to the ICO project gradually, and given the opportunity, if there is some type of problem in the ICO, for token buyers to retrieve or to withdraw the money that they have contributed to the project.
Okay, so just to summarize, basically, the problem of scam with the ICOs is because they raise huge amounts of money and they get this money up front, and then they can basically do with this money whatever they want to do. And many times they misappropriate this money for personal uses. And so what you do is, if I understand correctly, you do kind of a escrow. And in this escrow, there's then a way for investors to get that money back under certain conditions. Is that right?
Yeah, that is totally right. Basically, the ICO project raises the money, but they don't get the money immediately. The money goes to this escrow system, that is the coin governance system, that releases the money gradually to the ICO project. Mm-hmm. And that will go on unless there is a problem. And this problem basically is brought when investors lose faith in the project and they open a claim.
Okay.
That's
all right. And so I think we got the general idea. Now, I do want to go into some more detail, but before going into some more detail about how exactly this money will be released and what the conditions are that the money can be clawed back, I would like you, since you're also launching an ICO soon yourself, I would like you to tell us a little bit about the team, how you got started yourself, and who else is in the team besides you.
Well, basically about the team, we started on this project working from EcoFunding, which is basically an ICO facilitator that started working in December 2016 and was formally incorporated in July 2017. From where we've been helping a couple of ICOs launch their own ICOs. No, from the beginning, there was the idea of building products based on technology to help the ICO ecosystem to self-regulate and to help improve that ICO ecosystem, which seemed to be very wild at the beginning, no, with lots of projects raising millions only with a 10-page white paper and no team and not or very little team, and so we thought we want to build products that were based on smart contracts, that were decentralized, and that were following the philosophy of blockchain, so that weren't relying on one single central point of decision, no? So that there was a decentralized decision to it.
Okay. So you had, this is not the first company you built in the ecosystem. You built before EcoFunding. You saw the need for regulation, and so you built a product to address that problem, right?
Yes, that's right. Also, you were asking about the team. The current team of coin governance system is made up of 10 people. Basically, there's founders, two of the founders, Adrián Gómez de la Cruz, Alejandro Gómez de la Cruz and Adrián Calvo, they come from Grant Thornton, the blockchain hub, and they were working there for 3 years, working on blockchain solutions for big corporates. And there's also, as part of the team, Carlos Kuchowski. He's the CTO for new business in new digital business in BBVA.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is myself. I come from a financial background. Then we have another developer, a very senior developer, is Carlos Mora. We have a chief marketing officer, Anneluz van den Ende. She's been working also at helping marketing of ICO since for I'd say a year now. And there's there's a couple more profiles in the team, adding up to this 10 I was talking about.
Okay, so basically it's a team of people that have quite a lot of experience in the blockchain sector and in related sectors like startups, marketing, and finance.
Yeah, I would say so.
Great. Mm-hmm. So what is the vision for coin governance system 5 years from now?
Okay.
In terms of market penetration, will most of the companies launching an ICOs use coin governance system, or do you generally think that if not coin governance system, they will use some other kind of system? And do you think that ICOs in 5 years from now will still be, or will so popular, or will even be more popular than they are now?
Well, we definitely think ICOs as an instrument are here to stay. We think it's very powerful. I mean, allowing projects to raise funds from the other corner of the world. Mm-hmm. We think that is a disruption or evolution that is here to stay. And in that sense, we are building the coin governance system as an open source project. So, I mean, we are obviously pushing it. We're the sponsors, but it's the way we see it is as something that people could use without talking to us at all. No, so it's just a community of arbiters that decide on disputes with regards to ICO funds. So we obviously see ourselves as one of the main players in that ecosystem, in that governance ecosystem, but there is no revenue streams for us from people using the coin governance system. It's just a system of smart contracts that anybody can use.
Oh, okay, all right. So I misunderstood. So you don't have any revenue from that. It's an open source tool. Basically, you are doing the ICO to launch a new coin, which you can then tell us about where this token can be used. The money you will then use to cover the expenses that you have in the operation of building the coin governance system. Is that right?
Yes, of course. I mean, we are obviously selling the token, so we will be doing an ICO, and in that ICO we will raise funds from that token sale, and we will use that to develop the interface and to do the business development of the coin governance system. But apart from that, the smart contracts that we're developing and that we have developed, because we already have a testnet version or that we're using, that will be open source. So I mean, theoretically, the coin governance system, the CGS token, will be owned by a community of people who are watching ICOs and deciding on disputes. Anybody could build a product for this community, and hopefully people will do so. We obviously will build this product, that is the coin governance system, that initially is our first product, and it's this escrow system that we're talking about. But I mean, we hope that people build other products for that community, and we would be very happy to see this, because we want, as you were saying before, this to become a standard in the industry. I mean, we obviously see the need. We've seen that there are some projects trying to do similar things. We've tried to build it in a very open source way, and in a very flexible way, to allow people to build solutions on top of this, and also to give a very flexible product. We're not I mean, this product is conceived as a kind of a plug and play product for ICOs. I mean, you could even deploy it on an ICO even after the ICO has finished. So it's not something that you need to ask to prepare your ICO smart contracts for you. It's something that you have there. If you want to use it, it's there. If you want to use the version that we like, the standard version that we built, you can do it like that. If you want to do your own modifications to it, you can do it. I mean, it's not, it's just you will have there the community to solve the disputes, and that is why, I mean, the community could be used for many other things in the future. No?
Okay, all right. So you mentioned already that there are some other companies that are working in that space. So what I think would be useful if you could mention some of the companies, other companies that are doing things similar to what you do, meaning basically trying to prevent scams by not making the money raised available right away and providing certain mechanisms for the investors to get the money back in case the money is being misappropriated or in case they vote to get this money back. And then what would be useful is if you could explain the differences between the different systems and the pros and cons, and why you think that this system, coin governance system, is the best system.
Okay. Well, basically, I would say that there is well, there's obviously the icon of the paper published by Vitalik Buterin in January, which mentioned a solution, which was a theoretical proposition that he made. And this is a solution of basically releasing an escrow that releases the money gradually through a tap. And that is very similar to our solution. But then he proposed that it's the token holders of the ICO, the guys who can vote, and if there is a majority voting to close the ICO, these guys would kind of self-destruct the ICO, and the ICO would give back the funds to all the contributors, to all the token holders immediately. There is some projects that have kind of done an implementation of this DAICO, and they are normally, well, we see a couple. There's a name that comes to mind is CoinCrowd. They normally.
Sorry, what's the name? Coin what?
CoinCrowd.
CoinCrowd. Okay.
Look, I think they've done an implementation of DAICO. What we see about DAICO as a problem is that we have seen in token holder communities in ICOs that the people who are actually active when these votings occur are very small proportion. So we see these solutions are quite vulnerable to attacks from a small group of activist token holders. For example, I think there were some percentages of the people who voted in the DAO, the DAO, in 2016, and the people who are actually active in this type of projects and who are taking part actively voting and stuff is very low. So we thought that it was a good idea to create a kind of community of professional arbiters, because these guys, by its own definition, will be more active in voting these type of solutions. In the case of DAICO, you could see just a small percentage of token holders deciding, voting on a vote that other people maybe haven't realized it's happening, voting by majority to destroy an ICO that is performing okay, just because some of those token holders have whatever. I mean, they want to destroy the project, or they just have a conflict of interest. They want the money back for some other reason other than the project being performing correctly.
Okay, so let us just quickly see if I understand correctly. There are some other projects. One is basically on the white paper, on the what do you call DICO?
Yeah, DICO.
Or DICO, okay. And that proposed that you have the funding stage and the tap stage. And the tap stage,
Yes.
proportionally you can get a certain access proportionately to can withdraw money. And you were saying that if the investors vote and they can vote to destroy the ICO, I guess by majority opinion, majority voting, and then the problem is that the whole ICO money would have to go back to the investors, and they would give back the tokens.
That's
And okay, and you're saying that if only 10% participate of the investors, then you only need 6% of the investors, meaning a majority, in order to destroy the whole ICO, meaning getting all the money back, the money that's remaining, I would assume. And so you're saying, okay, that's not good if I have only 6%. So you're saying maybe I shouldn't destroy the whole ICO, and maybe I should have professional arbitrators rather than the investors vote. Is that right?
Yes, that's our idea. So basically, we have the token holders. So 5% in the coin governance system, 5% of token holders can open a claim, but this claim is not resolved by themselves. This claim is resolved by this community of arbiters that are the CGS token holders.
Okay. Okay, and this community of arbiters, do you select them? Are they semi-professional arbiters, or who is part of this community?
Well, the idea is that this community is generated. I mean, we are going to do an ICO, so that'll be the main step towards generating the ICO. So it'll be people who are investors of ICOs. So it's the ICO investor community, but by the fact that they are interested in buying this CGS token, it means that it's only the type of investors that likes to vote, because the utility of the token is actually voting. So by definition, it's not people investing in a project that will generate revenues in X years. It's people who are investing in having or buying the option to vote in ICOs. So that leads you to think that people who will buy this token will be very prone to vote in voting. So that's how we will be generating the community. We will also do a bounty program for people who actually try the product early, and that is how we will start generating the community.
So when you said arbiters, I thought, okay, these are people that have somehow some background, some experience in either legal or business affairs, and they could therefore judge if money has been misappropriated or not, to see if the ICO could be called a scam or not. And if it was a scam, they would then say the rest of the money has to go back. Now, you're saying that, in fact, the arbiters can, as I understand, buy your token, and the token gives the power to vote. So the more tokens you hold, the more power you have to vote. So anybody can be an arbiter. They just need to have the tokens. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Anybody who has a token and uses it is an arbiter. The idea is that we are basing our product on the wisdom of the crowd. So we want to build a community that is large enough that obviously is not managed by a single person who has a lot of voting power. In any case, the tokens, once there is a voting, those people who vote the right solution will gain CGS tokens from those who vote the wrong solution. So that is a self-feeding loop that improves the quality of the arbiters. So the guy who votes right most of the time gains his opinion or gains weight, and the guy who loses the votes will lose voting power. No? So that's the idea.
Okay. Now, isn't there a potential problem that people will not vote in order to just make a fair decision, but they'll just vote for their economic interest? And the economic interest would either be the investors who, if the ICO is going badly, just want their ethers back,
Mhm.
and the founders who, of course, want to keep all the money. And wouldn't it be possible that since the voting rights is not according to what is fair or who makes an impartial decision, but it's just anybody who has a token. So wouldn't both parties try to buy all of the tokens that give you voting rights, and thereby be able to influence the decision either for the investors or for the founders? So I would think that the founders, if I'm a founder and I raised 10 million, and just after using up 1 million, I still have 9 million remaining. I now face a claim by the investors that want to have voting if they can get the money back. So I would, of course, be willing to spend a large amount of money on these coins, let's say almost 9 million, because if I'm able to influence the voting in such a way then that I would win and the money would stay with me. And then once the voting is of course won, then I could sell, of course, the coins on the market for a high price, because by buying a lot, the price would have appreciated substantially. So isn't that something that could happen?
Well, first, if you're assuming that that obviously in this case that the project has the coin governance system and you have raised 10 million, you wouldn't have 9 million left because you are getting the money through a tap. So you wouldn't have so much money available to do this. Also, as you know, well, the idea is that the CGS token holder community is quite wide. So the ability for you to gain a big stake on that community through buying tokens would probably mean a big spike in prices of the CGS token, which obviously would raise the alarms of something going on. And also, in this blockchain world, people could see the transactions of who is buying CGS tokens, and if this is the same account that raised the money for the ICO, I mean that would probably turn on all the alarms, all the red lights on the CGS community. And if people were seeing that, that would mean that the CGS arbiter community would even be more incentivized to vote against you. So it's, I mean, theoretically possible to influence, but probably not worth it because it can be a very dangerous move. And probably what we expect is that the community of CGS, as the CGS rules or governs over many ICOs, should be much more difficult to tamper with than the actual ICO token holders of a specific ICO.
Okay, so you're saying it's just important to have a second coin for the voting. So in the proposal about the DICO, the voting right was in proportion to the number of tokens that somebody held, and now the voting right is in proportion to a second coin, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, what I'm saying is, if you've raised those, imagine going to the example that you were saying. No, you've raised 10 million, and I don't know, let's say that you've received part of the money already, and you say, look, I'm gonna try to influence the voting on the CGS. Well, then you have to buy a token that applies to many ICOs, which is much more difficult. But it would be if you're implementing DAICO, you would say, I just need to buy a few tokens of my own ICO. And so it should be easier to tamper with the voting of your own ICO than to tamper with a CGS community that is by definition, working on voting. So it should have much more active participation. And also it's because it governs more than one ICO, and hopefully we expect hundreds, it will be much more difficult to get hold of a big chunk of those tokens to try to, you know, manipulate the vote, you know.
Okay, but just to make sure, the holders of the coin have no obligation to make a decision based on if there was misuse of the money or no misuse of the money. It's just should the money go back to the investors or not, right?
Yes, basically the decision is the question that you get asked is the ICO using its funds properly or not? And you don't have to, I mean, these the crowd will decide. I mean, some people could vote doing a lot of research, some people would vote doing little research. The thing is that if you do a lot of research, you are much more likely to carry out the right decision, and then you will make more tokens. If you just vote, you know, first thing that comes to mind, there's a much higher risk of you losing tokens because you voted wrong. No?
So we covered the team, we covered the product, we covered the vision, the where you see the market in 5 years. So in terms of the product, you said it's actually already being developed, or you already have a better version available,
Yes,
or a test version available?
we have an MVP that we are testing on the Kovan network, and that is actually, I mean, at the moment is being used by a team and a few people who've tried to test it. So we'll be opening very soon. But I mean, if you want to test it, it's already, I mean, it's already available for tests. The idea is to test it for a few weeks, do some improvements, and then the next phase would be to actually try it on live products.
Okay, so you already have a team that is using the product that you have developed.
Obviously, yeah, with Kovan Ether, no fake Ether, but yes.
Okay. Now
we have a.
For me, the problem, the challenge would be, how do we attract ICO companies that want to do an ICO? Because for them, what is in it to gain? Because they know that if they use your solution, they don't have access to all the money right away. And they might, in fact, be doing some planning. And then at some point in time, the investors vote and they have to give back the money. For example, I was just recently talking to a founder who is doing an ICO for a cryptocurrency bank, and they're applying for a bank license. And they say that this alone costs over $1 million to get this bank license. So let's imagine they apply for that, then the final stages, and then they suddenly are asked the money back, and then they have to pay the money. So they might have certain obligations that they might have to pay. So the question is what about this insecurity of the founders, if they can get the money or not? And second, if they have this insecurity, wouldn't founders prefer not to use the solution?
Well, yes, Eike. I mean, I see the problem that you're asking about, and it's a question that we get. The way we see this is that if you put this product in front of a guy who's going to invest in your ICO, this guy who receives this sort of insurance, let's say like that way, that he can recover the money if the project is not going well. This will imply that the guy is ready to invest much more money than he would otherwise. So we don't see it as a problem of you have 10 million, you can put this product or not. We're saying if you need 10 million, an investor might give it to you if you put this product. Otherwise, you'll get 1 million or 2 million, because that's the way that we compare it to venture capitals. No? So venture capitals, what they'll do is they'll give you €1 million, and then they say you have these milestones in 6 months. If you reach them, we give you another 1 million. That's the way we see it. So now with ICO, what's happening? That the companies are not raising 1 million, then 1 million, then 1 million. The companies are raising 10 million altogether. But there's been enough failures and scams that people are getting wary of this and are not ready to invest in ICOs. So what we're saying is invest the 10 million, give the guy the firepower he needs. If the ICO is a scam or whatever, you'll be able to withdraw part of your money, so you can be more safe to invest. And also, when you're saying before, like we see this as a handbrake, as a last resource using the CGS, because if the ICO is performing okay and a token holder is not happy, what he will do is he'll sell the token in the market, which normally, if a project is functional, you wouldn't see the token's market cap being worth less than the ether on the escrow. Normally, projects are worth more than the money they have. If this is a solution for the case when the token is not trading, maybe the token, something has gone wrong, the project has disappeared, and then you have guys who want to retrieve the money, and their solution is, okay, the token is worth less than the money on escrow on the coin governance system. So this is a last resource solution.
Okay, understood. So, Pablo, you are saying that you also releasing the coin, which would be basically a voting coin, which can be used to vote if the ICO money that has been invested can be clawed back. And for this coin, for this token, you're now doing an ICO. So could you tell us about the investment opportunity and about the timeline for the ICO?
Well, the ICO is coming, but still not coming for a couple of months. So we're thinking that it could be taking place in June, July. What we are focused now right on is on building this community, and we'll build it through, well, we're starting to travel, to do some commercial activity with the CGS, to also, well, start having some partners joining in our project. And that's how we want to, and obviously this bounty program, no, that we were talking about. And our idea is to build this community and then go to the ICO to enlarge this community. In terms of the investment opportunity, the way we don't see this as an investment product. So this is a real utility. I mean, people who want to be part of this governance community will buy this token because they want to be, they want to be able to vote when there's a project, there's something going on in the ecosystem. We're not looking, I mean, obviously, if this becomes a solution that is used by many ICOs, a lot of the ICOs, and there is votings, openings, and people voting, obviously the token will tend to appreciate. But we don't see it as an investment proposition. We see it as a utility. It's something that you are part of the ICO community. You are reading white papers. You are a guy who's putting your opinion about ICOs on Telegram. Well, that's the kind of guy that we think should have this token, because this guy's gonna first want to be able to vote when there is an ICO. Is you're a regular ICO investor, and you invested in 50 ICOs. You would like ICOs to have this project, and your opinion to be heard when there is a big issue, no? And obviously, this type of claim is a very big issue for our project. And also, we want this community to be the guys who are actually prescriptors of the product. So, like, I want, if I'm investing in ICOs, I want ICOs to have this, because this makes me safer as a contributor to ICOs. So this is a kind of, well, it's a kind of, do you want to be involved in this sort of insurance mechanism? Is this something you want to have? And I think it's something that should be quite appealing. And obviously, it's something that can, reevaluate if loads of ICOs, if this becomes the standard solution. But we don't. I mean, it's not a product that you get revenues from, or any kind of. It's not a. I wouldn't put my life savings in, but
Sure,
I would buy this if I want to use it.
Sure. Okay. So, final question. I generally ask people in the interviews I do how they make sure that what assurance they can give to investors that the money that's being invested will not be misappropriated. Now, so how do you think that you can assure investors that the ICO that you're launching is not going to be a scam ICO? Are you using your own protocol?
Well, we are not taking, as we commented the other day, we're not using our own CGS, because that would in a way defeat the purpose of having a third party arbiter, because it wouldn't be a third party. And also the ICOs that have our coin governance system protocol would cannot depend on a contingent existence of the CGS, obviously. So we cannot, by definition, implement our own solution on ourselves. When people ask us, well, actually, not many people have asked us, are we going to do a scam? I mean, we're a company. I mean, there's ICOs that are based all over the world. We're a company that are based in Madrid. You can have a look at our LinkedIn profiles. I mean, we've been working in blockchain in finance for many years. I think we have our own reputations as individuals that we value very much, and we're obviously not going to. Well, I mean, it's the we're not we're doing this project because we like it. We could be doing other things, and we just, I don't know. In that sense, we would ask people to first to have a look at our track record as eco-funding, and second to have a look at our own personal track records and ask reference about us to our former employees, to whoever. I mean, we I don't know. I think it's
Well,
everybody take their own view, no? But
use a competing solution. The reason I asked is just because I really think that what you're doing is extremely valuable for the ICO community as a whole, because those ICOs that are misappropriating the funds, that's hurting not only the investors, but also the other founders that are planning to do an ICO that have already done an ICO. So I think it's very important that there are people like you that are working on this problem. So I wish you the best of luck for the project. And thank you so much for your time explaining the audience about your project, Coin Governance System.
okay, well, thank you very much, Ake. I hope my answers were helpful.